Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Thomas Michelon. I come from the French Embassy. I'm the Consular Attaché. I'm the Cultural Attaché. Thank you very much for being so numerous to take part in this masterclass dedicated to Arcane. When we discussed this with Dominique Ezra, and by the way, thank you very much for welcoming us. When we initially contemplated inviting the Arcane crew, we had no doubt it would be a success. We know that in Belgium, there are many of you who love Jinx, and there's no reason why it should stop. And by inviting them, we really wanted to convey something. We wanted really to convey the creative impulse that is to be found behind the very hard work that has been done by the crew over the 5 years that it took. It's really amazing because of the graphic universe, because of the narrative arc, because of the use of colors, because of the graphic design. And not only that, we actually take great pride of seeing that the French company was selected by Netflix, but it was not the only reason. We really wanted you to understand that it's just possible to create a universe that is offbeat, that is one of its kind, with the possibility to reach out to an audience, a very wide-ranging audience. And I must say that it's a great honor and it's a real pleasure to have you here. It is my great honor and my great pleasure to welcome here the whole crew behind Arcane within the Anima Festival at 5 p.m. There's going to be another conference as interesting as this one, but this one it's going to be dedicated to NFTs. So if you wish like overstaying here at Anima Festival, you will be more than welcome to this 5 o'clock session. And without further ado, I'd like to give the floor to Guillaume, who's going to be our MC, the master of ceremony for this session. Thank you very much. And I'll leave you in good hands. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this session dedicated to behind the scenes of Arcane. Arcane is an animated series inspired by the League of Legends video game. I'm saying this even though I'm sure that I'm preaching to the converted. Please, if you have not seen the Arcane TV series, please raise your hand. Well, it's no big deal, you know.
Just a quick note in English. So this talk is going to be in French, but it's being translated live. So if you need a translator or headphones, do know there are a few available, and you can ask for one, so you can follow it up if French you don't understand it or don't understand it well. Back to French.
Fortiche is the name of the production company behind Arcane. We've got here with us Jérôme Combe, the co-founder of Fortiche. Next, we have Christelle Bocot, the communications manager working for Fortiche. Next, Maximilien Ly, the technical fix animation supervisor from Fortiche. And finally, last but not least, Dimitri James, the fix animator of one of the fix animators from Fortiche. And without further ado, I suggest that we give them the floor, because I guess that you are all dying to hear what they have to say. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for being present here with us. I'm going to introduce you to the Fortiche studio. And the speakers who will speak this afternoon, Maximilien Ly is the technical and fix animation supervisor, and among us is also Dimitri James, one of the fix animators, because there is a whole team of fix animators working for the studio. So I will tell you about the studio story, and afterwards they will be speaking and they will be explaining to you what fix animation is. They will share a number of examples with you taken from season session 2 will have a Q&A session where you will be given the possibility of asking them every question you may feel like asking them. As you've heard from Guillaume, the Fortiche studio was created back in 2009 by three friends, Pascal Charus, Jérôme Combe, who is here with us, and Arnaud Delors. They are also the co-managers the co-directors on Arcane Season 1, and they are also responsible for the look development. Fortiche is three studios, one based in Paris, one based in Montpellier, and one based in Las Palmas. As you can see, it's a very festive atmosphere, but we're not only having fun, we also do hard work, because in order to make a series like Arcane, as you might have guessed, we have to put in some very intense work. You see here a compilation of the different projects we've been involved in before Arcane. The first was La Gaviota in 2012, then Gorillas, and then we started working with Get Jinx. And this is a partnership that's going to celebrate its 10th year anniversary. Then we did Freak of the Week. It was all the way back in 2014. We did this with the author of the Black Sad comic strip. And the same year we worked on Warriors. Warriors, it was while we were having a break, doing some rewriting on Arcane. We did also Echo, a short that we produced in 2014. Another project that also kept us busy in 2015, it was Wildstar, a video game. And then we went on working on Rocket and Groot in 2017, Rise in 2018, and then the rest, well, you all know it, in 2021, Arcane. Arcane is the equivalent of 3 feature films, 9 episodes, more than 360 minutes, and more than 10,000 shots that were made in 6 years. In Arcane, there was a total of 560 people that worked on season 1 only. That means a lot of people, as you can see here. But I must say that it was full of joy, and we got many awards, and we take great pride of the many awards that we have received, and we hope that it's going to continue. And now back to you. What is fixed animation? Our role is to sublimate what is going to take place after the animation work. That is to say that we step in after the animation department. What we're going to do is going to do some touch-up work that the animators did not do because they had to meet the quota and because they were on a tight schedule. And we're going to do some additional animation in order to provide animation of some accessories, in order to make it more organic, to make it look more to the reality. And for the other departments, you've got CFX, responsible for clothes and hair. What we do is that we check the interpenetrations between one single character or between one character and another character. For example, a hug. You have to make sure that there is sufficient space in between the two characters so that they can hug. And then you've got lighting and composition. We're going to check the scene and make sure that the animation is not too violent. You have to make sure there is some motion blur, and you should also make sure that there are not too many shadows, or that they are being kept behind the camera. And we also make sure that there is no glitch in terms of connections. You know, we try to make sure that there is some consistency in the scenes, and if there is a problem of connection in between scenes, this is something that we take full responsibility of, and that we assume in the storytelling. Let me tell you about the profiles that are quite in demand in the department. That's the supervisor who's going to decide on the profile that we will be looking for at Fortiche. We take more of an interest in inspiring animators. Animators who know how to animate, who have a strong potential, but who cannot yet be a main animator, but who have the potential of becoming a main animator. We're looking for curious people, people who are not afraid of techniques, people who have been educated to Maya, for example. We're there to educate you. If you really do not feel comfortable, don't worry, we're there to help you. And if we realize that the person sitting in front of us is afraid of the technical stuff, we'd rather not work with them, because this is not going to be a very good and a rewarding experience for them. And it all depends on their personality. It's important to know the mood of the animator and whether this person is going to blend in the new team, and whether he or she will find his or her place within the Fortiche team. Who are we? My name is Dimitri James. I took up technical studies as part of my secondary education. And then I started an artistic school after having passed an examination, entry examination. After my studies, I started my own business. I was self-employed, but I had to make both ends meet. And I took up some job, and I applied to Fortiche, and they selected me to become a fixed animator. Yes, and that is when he started working 100% for animation. My name is Maximilien Ly. After secondary education, I studied communication, MMI, as we know it in France now. The focus was on programming and communication, and afterwards I moved on to either the digital, like Dimitri, even though I'm younger than he is. After that, I worked for a couple of studios before I joined Fortiche in 2019. I worked on series, on shorts, but also on the feature films at Micros and Illumination, and finally I landed at Fortiche. We're going to show you some examples of the shot that we've made. We made a selection, so keep a close eye to the screen, because this is going to move quite fast. The fixed animation department is the department that's going to make the difference between feature films and animated series, because not every studio has a fixed animation department. The shots that you see are shots that I made personally during season 1. And you've got, let me explain what we do. For example, for this particular shot, we were telling you about CFX, the clothes simulation. We have to manage the props, the interaction with the props, the interaction with the background. Here, I had to work on the chest of Vi at the level of the impact, at the level of the forearm. And talking about lighting, what you have to pay attention to is that if there is too big of a gap, then there is a mismatch at the level of the shadow. It's not realistic. And as you can see on a shot that lasts less than 1 second, I spent at least 1 day working on this shot. This required a lot of hard work. well, many things that you do not necessarily see on screen, but this is very important for the final rendering. For this particular shot, we have our favorite characters. I love Jinx. This is one of my favorite characters. And here I worked on the contacts at the level of the cheek, but also the hands. As we've explained to you, the biggest part of the work that we do is to take particular care of these aspects. And we try to make normal what would not have seemed as normal had we not intervened on the shot. Here, for example, we slightly changed the shape of the cheek of Jinx leaning on her hand. We really wanted this to be more organic, and we really wanted to change the volume of the cheek resting on the hand. And that lends credibility to what you see on the screen. Our work is not perceptible to the eye, but I think that the excellence lies in the details, I think. There are some shots that require much more energy and much more efforts, and this is one of them. You see the interaction between the two characters. Originally, there was a lot of penetration at the level of the arm of Vi. The arm of Vi was going through the other character, and one of our main mission is to make this modification while staying as close as possible to the animation. And this is really what is top of mind for us. We have to manage the contact so that we can do the simulation. But there was no simulation here on this shot. There should have been simulation, but for reasons of design, simulation was not done, meaning to say that we had to manage all of this by ourselves. But the objective of our work is to modify the animation as long as this is not perceptible to the eye, as long as we pay respect to the intention of the animator. This shot is also one of those complicated shots. Despite here after the final rendering, there isn't much you see. When Vice makes this movement, there is a section of the body that is bending itself, and we had to pay attention to the contact of Caitlin's hand on Vi. It was quite complex, and this is the kind of penetration that we have to take proper care of. We have to stay as close as possible to the animation, but after the final rendering, we realize that it wasn't too bad, and I must say that it's quite rewarding to see that we did quite a good job. These are small shots. Some animators forget to animate the lower lid, and sometimes we have to correct the blinking of the eye. Even though we do not want to criticize the animators, you know, we will not be giving you names. Had we not done it, you would have seen a flap of skin protrude here. And it would not have been very appealing. Sorry, it went very fast. When I joined Fortiche, usually you start with an easy shot, but Max gave me this shot. This was my first shot, and I remember for the rest of my life, because there were so many things that I had to do. I do not know what you think of it, but I quite like it. It's quite cool. We had to do quite a lot of work on the braid of Jinx. you know, there was some jerky movement in the braid after the animation, and so we had to correct this. Yes, and the braid would go through the shotgun, and so what Dimitri had to do animation on the braid. And what we had to pay particular attention to in this shot is that the eye will follow the braid, and this will give you the sense in which you should read this shot before you switch over to Vi's hand. And we really wanted to keep this while at the same time doing the word expected from us. And we had also to clean the scene so that the work could be done by the following departments, such as the CFX department. But well, this gives you an idea of the type of constraints that we have to handle. We have to animate quite a lot of things while, you know, respecting some artistic intent. And it's not only the braid, you know. So we had to go through the contacts between the different characters. There's an anecdote I'd like to share with you about this shot. It was the tech team from Riot. They provide animation for the chair. But as soon as Silco sits down, you see that all of the cushions were animated in order to give more credibility. So this is micro animation, and this is very important. Some preliminary work had been done by the animator working on this shot. But the fix had to be involved in order to make sure that the distortions of the backrest would follow the back of the character. And well, what we like is whenever people get to us and tell us that this is something that has not escaped them, well, you know, the people from Riot insisted so much on the level of details that this shot involved that they created an emoji. And when they do this, it means that you did an excellent work. And so we quite liked it. And this is an anecdote that we like to share. And we use this emoji, this Silco emoji, whenever we want to congratulate each other. It's a way of, you know, patting on our shoulder. This is Echo. There isn't much I have to say on this shot. The jacket had been done by the CFX department. We had to pay proper care of the strap with the different layers of the jacket, the hood, the scarf, the collar. We know that afterwards the CFX is going to work on it, and we know that it should not be perfect what we do because we know that the CFX will look after it afterwards.
Yeah, it's quite similar on this shot. Just look at the chair again, so it's like pawned for the eyes, you know. Alright, let's move on. So we don't see them a lot, but with these figures, these characters, we had a big problem. That is, I don't know if you remember, but they have plates on their torso. It's metal, so we don't have much margin for maneuver to correct that. So we had to do it with each shot and make sure it would be as natural as possible, but keep good visibility, easy reading, and good continuity in the animation. So here you take the plates animation. It allows you to improve the pauses taken by the different characters. It strengthens some lines also. Then you have the special guides here. That's the light the light, these lines with the light. I don't know if it was done in this shot, but it was created based on the anime intentions that we had, or animation intentions that we had, and wanted to make sure that it would be useful for the other departments to create this ray of light, which is very representative of the factory soldiers. Here again, different shots, but the CFX was not actually working. Here you had working on ropes. We like the guys at SFX, of course, you know, but we wanted to preserve the looks, and so we prefer to do it on our own with the anim or fixed anim department. So the ropes, the rendering was a bit strange. It was at the very limitation of what we could do with the skin, so we reworked the ropes to make it more consistent, to make sure it looked like it was tight. So that was the last shot here, I think. Alright. Fixed animation is, like a lot of technical departments, it's a cherry on the cake from every 3D animation projects, okay? And I'm just reading out, you know. But that's a lot of cherries, you know, on the cakes. So it's pretty nice to work with technical departments which are just there to create the pictures that you see today. And this is also thanks to them. That was my conclusion. Thank you. Right, that was fast. Thank you. I think there will be questions in the room. Do you have a microphone? A rover mic? Hello? Congratulations on your work. I think you've been told that before, but I was wondering, you speak about different sectors or departments. How many teams do you have, or how many departments you have? Well, within the studio, we have around 15, 1-5. Pre-production, that includes board, all design concepts, environmental concepts, all the sets, creation of weapons and different elements or characters, textures, the lines, hairdressers, true, we have a groom. I would say from 15 to 20 departments. And they are just here one of the departments among the others. Another question? Congrats again for your show. I have a question about your department. It's fixed animation. Is it exclusively done on Maya? The answer is yes. And regarding another department, the 2D animation, what is the software used there? It animates. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Again, congrats and thank you. Great show. I would like to know how much time it takes to do the fix editing for the whole show, whole series. That's a tricky question, right? It depends if you take into account the pilot, but the fix anim started before I came in 2019. It was as long as the production. So as long as you work on the animation, you have a fix animation. The same for the other departments. Although the work's done, you still have to stay to fix the last issues and maybe fix others. No further question, thank you. Alright, thank you. I really love this show. I watched it several times actually. Yeah, so my question is, how was cooperating with Riot Games? Because you need to adapt the character design, the different characters in the series compared to others. So is it easy to work with another company like that? Yes, it was pretty easy. It was pretty much organic actually. We had no obligation to make this look like another character on the movements. Oftentimes it's a problem when you do adaptation, okay? Even in Marvels, you know, they want the props or the costumes to look like the toys, and we had total freedom to do what we wanted until today at least. I hope we remain free. And I guess that some shots were trashed, so do you keep them or would you have liked them to be seen? Yes, it has happened, but very few times only. We made a pilot and thus well, we took off 30%, 30, because the story was rewritten. So some characters disappeared. There are 2 old teasers with characters which finally do not appear in the series. And before that we did a screening test and the introduction was too long. It was a long shot, sequence shots. You should never have a screening test because it's pointless anyway. So we had to cut it. It was a very nice shot, sequence shot, with music and so on. Not enough dynamic maybe. Yeah, so this is what happened at the beginning. But we didn't trash much of it, or too much. We try not to. I have a question. Back to the fixed department. You know, from a technical viewpoint, when you say you should not be afraid of the technical matters, when is it? Maybe you have to create special rigs or adapt some rigs to do some fixing. How does it work? We either do the rigging with your tools, shot by shot. Then many people want to become animators or are animators, so they're really scared of the technical aspect. And so I had a meeting with somebody who said, no, nothing about technical matters. So, well then what do you want to do? That was my question in return. Now, jokes aside, I don't want people to have a phobia about this, but otherwise we're here to help them with the tools. I'm not asking the graphic designers to become riggers, you know, STDs. I'm there to share knowledge about the tools. They should not be afraid. They should actually be curious. They should be willing to learn. But there's no obstacles. Yeah, when I came, I had I didn't know anything about fixing, and I learned on the job, on the spot. You should not be afraid to ask questions, and as Max often says, there's no thing as a stupid question, so that's the way to learn faster. And then there's always somebody who says, oh, great, he asked a question again, I forgot. He spoke about correction in 3D. Now, with such a good production, it is hard to imagine that a department would provide some work which is not perfect. So to which extent does a 3D department allow itself to give you work to do? Yeah, just a question. But my question is, can the 3D department leave you with some imperfect work? So sometimes maybe they're less precise in their production level. No, but as Max put it before, it's about deadlines, speed. So sometimes they will focus on the shape of the animation, and they know we're here to work afterwards because it's our job to correct. That's why they can afford doing it, and they trust us. Yes, fixing is like, you know, the safety valve for them, for the animation department, because sometimes you have a shot which has to be released. You're not ready or 100% ready. You say, sorry for that, guys. Can you fix it? I did crap here, and please fix it. But it's teamwork, you know. We're all working on the same project, a project that we like, and each department, well, is there to help each other. It's about helping each other and if we need to change the animation, we'll ask the animator to review it, to change it, because it's too much for us. Otherwise, we have to delete everything you did, and it's not the objective either. All right, thank you for that. Follow-up question. You're the last part of the chain, last link in the chain, so no, we're not the last ones. We're not the last ones, so no, we don't have that level of pressure for composition. That's for them. The pressure level is higher because they have to deal with all our delays. But we're not the last ones in the chain, so it's for compo. Now, when we do the calibration, we still see all the failures, and it's horrible, actually. So sometimes we try to hide them, but it's endless. You know, you could keep doing it all the time. In fixed animation, do you actually focus on more technical work, artistic work, or both, to preserve the artistic consistency of the animation? Yeah, I would say both. That is also why I'd rather focus on some profiles. You need to have the right feeling about animation. You need to feel what you need to keep and what you need to break. Okay? But tell you the truth, it's more technical than artistic, because the artistic part is there to help you understand what was done before. So, okay, so you have the technical work which is helping the picture, not the contrary. Yes, that's the case for Arcane. Yeah, for Arcane, when we have some artistic purpose, we don't know how to get there, but we'll be getting there anyway because we have to do it. So we'll find a way to go. But of course, we organize some testing, and then we do our utmost. And all the departments do that. The objective is to have a result that we all like. Hi there. You spoke about the freedom given to you by Riot when you created the series. What is the biggest challenge for you when you go from one media to another? You go from a video game to a series. What were the main problems you faced? yeah, we had to learn trusting ourselves. And they had to trust us too. You know, go from a 3-minute video clip with a team of 20 people to a huge team with 5.5 hours of film and 300 people behind an entire project. I would say 300 people at the same time working on the project. It was the most difficult part. The beginning, we always had someone working with us. Had, you know, director, they wouldn't trust us. Then we had an American guy who was there for the editing because they believe we cannot do it as well as the Americans, that we got rid of the guy from the US and so on and so on. So these are, you know, levels you need to climb. It's not easy, but they enabled us to get there where we are now. With Riot, it all changed all of a sudden because we delivered a film, a short film for the, it was for the film Rise, and between the version that we gave on the sent and the version we showed a month later, we had improved the picture, we had made changes, and they noticed that they thought we were nuts, and so they just let us go our way, and they trusted us. We really trust each other, and it's not always the case, I believe, in many relations, many activities or studios. Hello? Your work is impressive. Congratulations. Now, personally, I am part of the IT world. It's like creating a big software. So it means you need people who provide, you know, follow-up on all the changes. So you must have like a project manager to know what frame has been changed and why do you do that. You know, some data on the follow-up. Or just some people who are not technical staff, artistic staff, but just people who manage all these details to make sure you remember what you did in 5 years, you know? Or is it too much? You mean it's like, yeah, you have the change manager. So if you want to change something, you have a change manager. If you change the code, well, you need to document that. Do you do the same thing with your animations? We have an asset manager. We use Shotgun. Like everyone, it's very expensive. I don't personally use it, but it allows us to know what was done by whom and so on and so on. But there's still some improvement there, some margin for improvement. You know, many companies design their own asset manager. We use that one. And also allows us to communicate with Riot. They can look at everything like storyboard, animation, fix animation, and so on. So everybody can follow the work done. So we have one person who runs this. It's pure development. But of course you need tools to do that, because it's 800 shots per episode, you know, that's a lot everywhere. You have different steps and stages and levels. Hi, question here. You said you were like 20 people. Where are you? Oh, okay. And then you're hundreds of people now. How did you handle growth? Because it's super big growth, fast growth in the team. So we didn't handle it well, we did not. Well, it could have been worse, but while we grew little by little, worked on the pilot, you know, project. Had like 100 people. We didn't go from 20 to 300 overnight. We changed software. We had 3ds Max before and other types. The animators absolutely wanted to use Maya because they know Maya. So we needed to find people to do the rigs on Maya, and the sorting team was not working with this piece of software. So I couldn't do anything, for example. It was quite frustrating, but things went on well afterwards. And did you already have different departments and so on at the beginning? No, when they created the company, there was one studio in Paris, period. The two offices were, well, they opened in 2020 during COVID. We opened the additional offices during COVID. Hi again. You said 300 people worked on season 1. In total over 500 people. But now, did you manage to keep these people to work on more projects, or did you say, okay, look guys, the project is over, we'll have to cut staff, or do you manage that? How do you do it? Now we're even more numerous now. We're now 380 people working at Fortiche, so we're growing still.
What about people working as temporary workers? Yes, we've got temps working for us. You know, pre-production department finishes the work earlier than the other department. One follows the other. The people taking breaks who work on other projects because they can't take it any longer, and people who have been working with us for 12 years. So it's really a mix. You've got people leaving, coming back, they try their hand somewhere else and they realize that it's not so good. So usually they come back to us. What I want to say is that what I find quite amazing about Fortiche is the focus you put on the quality of the product, but you really listen to what the artists say and want, and that is really what I like. A couple of weeks or a couple of months ago, I've seen that you were looking for a DA for another project, and would you be interested in recruiting junior animator? And would it be for Arcane or another new project? Well, sometimes we make mistakes, we make blunders. So it's like the previous question, you know, the objective is for people to develop. Professionally speaking, yes, we're looking for a DA. Yes, but no. Well, we've got plenty of them, but we're working on season 2. They need time to breathe. And we also want to meet fresh blood, so that's why we ran this small ad. Thank you. Hi. It's a more personal question, but what did you prefer the most in this series? What did you enjoy the most? Oh, the moments that we preferred on season 1. Yes, on season 1. Well, the work that we did in the evenings and the parties that we did in the evenings. Well, on season 1, I did a little bit under 700 shots. It's very difficult for me to remember all of the shots, but the very first shot that I did, the one that I showed you earlier on, this is something that sticks with me. And I also have found memories of those shots that I could sort of animate, and it goes very fast. You know, it's really hard. Well, I'm afraid I don't have any clear-cut answer to your question. As for me, I like to check the rigs. That is what we try to do before transferring to animation. And when I discovered Celica, immediately I related to this character. I liked this character a lot. All the artwork of the previous episodes. We have a pie chart where we see the evolution of the shots, and when the pie chart is open, it gives us a great pleasure. Yes, we can keep track of the progress made. And when we are progressing well, the color of the pie chart changes to green. Well, thank you very much for your answer. I think there is a young lady over there who wanted to ask a question. Are you working on textures, on the lighting, so as to give you an idea of where the problems lie? Do you work at different levels of rendering? You mean when we do the animation or when you do the fixed animation? It depends. Sometimes the texture is not 100% ready. We have a V1 and as time goes by, we've got the final textures, and then we've got the color script, and this is what we use as a reference, and I must say that it is a big help, and it serves as a guide to us, Very often it's very dark, and when we have to work on very dark zone, dark areas, we're not going to give them a lot of love. We're going to give our love to the lit scenes. We do our work. And we are so obsessed about what we do is that sometimes we do not see the biggest mistake. And so other department tells us that there is a mistake. It's like the problem of transition. It can go all the way to the compositing department before it is corrected, and we try to correct it before it's too late. The 3D lighting is something we do in order to get a quick idea of where the light is going. But it's really the guys at compositing that do the lighting of the scene. I have another question. I know that Riot works with other studios. How come they chose you? They were looking for someone to do a series, and what have been the reasons why they decided to work with you? Because we are a nice guy. The studio you are referring to, they only did 2D. We did Jinx. We did the musical video of Jinx. And they came to us because we did the very first video with him. And that's the reason why. But we didn't pay him any money. No, there was no bribe involved. We did Jinx and Christian had seen La Gaviota, and that's how it happened. But we did the series because we'd been involved in Jinx. Hi, I have a question about the writing of the scenes. What about other projects? What about possible adaptations or original ideas? Are you looking for script writers for this kind of project? I'm a representative of script writers, so I can't resist the urge of asking you the question. We would love to. We have projects with Riot. They are responsible for script writing. It's Christian, among others, that does the script writing, and we would like to develop our own projects. And that's it, really. Vincent is there. He had a project, but unfortunately it was too much of a niche. It was expensive, it was a niche project, and there are many other reasons why it didn't see the light of day. But we try to work on our projects. Thank you, thank you. There are still people having questions in the back. I have another question about the budget. I do not know whether it's a question for you. It might be more for Riot. What about, the Netflix participation? Was it really necessary? Was it necessary to finance the series? I know that Riot has quite a war chest, but I do not know what is the extent to which they could finance the series. They financed the series. I do not know how much Netflix bought the series. It's really Riot that took the risk. Arcane is on Netflix. Next time it will be HBO Prime on the big screen. But there was no artistic input from Netflix. The deal was concluded 2 months before the release.
Thank you for that. We'd like to ask a question on the scenes on the shots you like the least, like maybe you worked on the shot so much that you couldn't stand it and couldn't see it anymore. Do you have that? Because you have the ones you like most and you have those you hate. There are some, not many, some shots. After you have 30 exchanges with the lead, it's hard to keep working on that. When you spend a whole week on a shot, it's too much. So you remember that. But as a whole, things are fine. Because the nice shots are actually better, and this is what reminds us that we love our job. And just for like any other job, you have good and not so good things, You just have to go beyond what you don't like, and then there's somebody there supporting me. If you see like a shot where people hug each other, we hate that. It looks good, but it's really hard to do. In episode 1, there's a shot, they fall in the trash. It was horrible. There were like 200 versions. Congrats on your work. It's crazy what you did. Here's my question. You said that you would go from fixed to animator. What is the conversion rate? Does it happen a lot or not? And how does it work? You have a fixed animator who does great job, then you give him more shots for the animation, and then he moves on, or does he have to really apply as an animator and so on, like standard procedure? Well, historically speaking, it didn't happen so much. It's a matter of time. For season 1, it's not somebody who left for the animation, but for the anime crowd. There was just one vacature. The person had the necessary skills, so we asked this person to do that job. Then it's our animation director. He did the test with the person. This person passed, and that's it. And it's not always with Fortiche, but with other production companies. With Illumination, we had somebody who came out of school, had great potential to become an animator. He was exercising on his own. I was a lead at the time, and he was showing us his work. To me and the supervisor, we would give some feedback. And once we reached our limitation when looking at the pictures, we said, okay, there's nothing left. So we sent that person to another friend who's the lead animator, who gave some feedback, and now this guy is an animator for Mario. But it's like anything. It's like at school. It's a lot of personal work. Well, I hire people in a team who have great potential. I'll always tell them. Some of them show what they do. We give feedback. We do it with most people. Fine, they can change and evolve. Maybe not here at Fortiche or elsewhere. It's also my goal. It's what I like. It's to make people improve. Thank you. I had a question. We spoke about storytelling before. I understand that that's Riot Games who's in charge of the story. But Arcane includes a lot of environmental narrative actually, to make sure that the players like it, as in the League of Legends. So how does it work when you work with Riot Games for the environmental narrative, like the Enzo shop, where you have different items from the game, and if you're not a player, have no idea what it is? You see, is it Riot Games who's asking you to keep that, or do you do what you want? Well, at the beginning they would ask us to make some references, okay, but now we just do it naturally on our own. We're having fun doing it, There is no specific request on that from Red. It's just an organic way of working. Nobody in the marketing department is asking for things, they don't want us to add some props or anything specific. All right. Back to the environment actually. So you are very much inspired by the League of Legends, but for the buildings, clothes, for Piltover, where do you find inspiration? You have Mouchard. There is an exhibition in Paris, not done by us, but we're involved in an exhibition in Paris. This is where we find some inspiration. So that's for the animation director, who finds his inspiration there. We had many drawings, from Piltover. A lot of concepts had been used for other projects. It's about development or over-development. But it's just our source, that's where we find inspiration, the cinema, arts, art deco. Sometimes it looks a bit like, or too much like Gerverne, with a big mix-up of everything, but that's why it is original. Oh, thank you. Hi there. Is the finished product coming out of your office, or does it come out of Riot's? And then if it's from you, do you play with the music? How does it work? Now we do animation, animatics, very precise animatics. With music that we use. With Riot, they add their own music. When it's Imagine Dragons, we receive the music and we put pictures on the music. It works both ways, you know. And the final picture comes from here, from us. I do the composition. I send everything to Netflix, and so on and so on. Calibration. There's nobody reviewing anything after me, except for the Chinese version, which is re-edited. There is censorship. It's a bit absurd, but it does exist. If you watch the Chinese version, you'll see the difference. I'm not an art student, so I have maybe a stupid question. Do you sometimes work with people from different backgrounds, like architects? I worked for an architect specializing on Horta, and I watched Arcane. I saw Art Nouveau even in the undergrounds, so I had this wow effect. So do you sometimes work with consultants from other sectors, or is it just animators, graphic designers? No, it's one more voice to make a decision. There are enough people giving their opinion already. But I like to have opinions from people from FOP, but that's one more person always, you know. At the very beginning, we do when you look for a concept, of course, but not during the production. Otherwise, it's too complex to manage, too hard to manage. But other professionals could play a role and be a source of inspiration. Last two questions, please. Hi. Also, congrats on this show, with this series, which is wonderful. Visually speaking, it has caused a lot of reaction among students, especially in the arts sections. So, ma'am, you're in charge of, okay, communication, okay. So, we have artistic teams. How do you hire people? Are all the artists coming from the best known schools? You have the Goblins, they're very well known in Paris. Do they come from there, or where from? No, we have different profiles. Julia went to Goblins. The animation director also went to Goblins. But before that, Julia was like, you know, somebody very different. The first time he made the sky, he was very fast, but it makes you react. It's not because he went to the Goblins, you know. Goblins helped him get structure and so on. But you have very different profiles. People who didn't go to school even have a fireman. I met him someday he was a fireman, my age almost. He's a lead animator now. You see? Very different profiles for schools, you name it. You just need to be passionate, that's it. And that's not easy. Of course, generally speaking, we don't look at the school you're coming from. You know, generally speaking, most students do this to join studios as Fortiche. but we're not sure it's absolutely necessary. You know, it always depends on the supervisors of each department. They choose the people. And with season 2, we're working full speed, and we're not taking enough time to train people. We don't have interns because we don't have time for that. And maybe in a few months' time things will get better, and we'll look around and breathe with junior profiles maybe working with us. But our composition lead is a junior. It's not about the school you're coming from. Yeah, that was my question. Somehow, is it still possible to go to your studio and learn? Because sometimes it looks very complex where you keep working, or do you still provide some training and follow-up within the company? Well, for the textures, this is something you need to understand, the grasp, it doesn't come naturally. This is something you need to learn on the job, but it goes fast. Now, in schools, texture is not something they teach well. They often speak about layers of things. You just have to paint it, and it looks nice. This is where it takes time to adapt. Okay, that's painting, textures. We have a more classical approach with the animation. We have humans, not dominions. Okay, so it takes time to adapt somehow, to make sure you keep the shape, you keep them looking good. Yeah, it takes training. So send your resumes, okay, your CVs, and demos. But it always goes according to the profile. It's not just about your school or not. It's about your personal work, and especially when you're at school, that's when you have time to do things, because when you start working on a project, when you go home, you don't want to have your personal projects anymore. But it's about personal work. And we try to see if we like the profile, if it does fit into our system, that's great. This director would be looking for somebody we'd been working with who left and then came back. That's how it works, you have rotation. Thank you. Last question here. Hello. Season 2. What about season 2? Where are you in the production? We cannot tell. Good try, good try. Okay, let's propose on this non-spoiler. Thank you, everyone. Dimitri, Maximilien, Christelle, and Jerome, thank you, the four of you.